King James showing some love to JJ Redick on Friday night. Okay, JJ, we see you showing the range. Love hearing JJ Redick on the game. Smart, insightful dude. I agree with that. Low-key, high-key funny. I'll give you low-key funny. I don't know about high-key yet.
I don't understand. Am I both low-key and high-key funny?
Yeah.
Or am I one or the other? I think I'm more low-key funny. There's a subtle sarcasm.
I'll give you low-key funny. I'm not going to go high-key.
Embrace it, my brother. It shows your versatility.
No, I love that.
Just roll with it.
That was very nice of LeBron to tweet that out and acknowledge me calling the Hawks and Heat game on Friday night. I appreciated that. That.
Well, listen, he knows his basketball. You know your basketball, so it's all good.
All right. We'll keep it rolling here, guys. Philly is where we're going to pick things up. Took a 15-point L on their home floor as Toronto claws back into the series, now only down 3-2. And that was without Fred VanVleet. Joel Embiid dealing with a thumb injury, scored 20. And James Harden still not putting up the numbers needed, 15, 2, and 7. Joel Embiid was asked about James Harden's struggles.
I've been saying all season since he got here, he just needs to be aggressive and he needs to be himself. That's not really my job. That's probably on coach to, talk to him and tell him to, take more shots, especially if they're gonna guard me the way they've been guarding. But that's really not my job.
All right, Game 6 in Toronto on Thursday. Big perk. Has Harden become a liability?
He has, and I think we all need to come to realization that James Harden game is on the decline right before our very eyes. Because if you look around the NBA and you look around this particular series right now, this game comes down to your superstars leading the way and getting buckets. It's no schemes. It's no offensive sets. It's nothing that you can run. It comes down to high pick and roll, getting the switch, and your superstars taking you home. We watched Giannis do it. We watched Luka do it last night. We watched Jason Tatum and Jaylen Brown do it. The fact of the matter is this. James Harden doesn't have the explosiveness no more. James Harden can't get to the basket like he used to get to the basket. James Harden can't even create enough separation to get his three-point shot off anymore. This is James Harden, and this is who he is, and I think we have to accept that. And yes, he has become a liability for the Philadelphia 76ers, because if you look at their 3 wins, it wasn't on the back of James Harden. It was on the back of Tyrese Maxey and Joel Embiid. And we can't continue to ask Tyrese Maxey to bring this team home and not hold James Harden accountable, but James Harden just don't have it no more. And offensively, he's a liability for the Philadelphia 76ers.
So much of Tyrese Maxey's success in those first 2 games were because of the attention they paid to James Harden. They were sitting in the gaps at the nail on every ISO. How many times do we see over the first 2 games just a quick swing pass to Maxey where he's got a lineup 3 or he's able to attack a closeout? James Harden is not a liability perk. Is James Harden the same player that we saw in Houston or pre-hamstring injury in Brooklyn? No, he's not. So I think our view of who James Harden is has to change. Liability is the wrong word. James Harden is still a very effective playmaker and facilitator. He averaged over 10 assists a game while he was in Brooklyn this year. While he was in Philly, he's averaging over 9 in this series. In the 21 games he played for the Sixers this year, on-off net rating, they're almost 14 points better with him on the court. Here's my worry on this, though. Let's say the Sixers get by the Raptors. Against the Miami Heat, he's going to be faced with Jimmy Butler, PJ Tucker. It's a lot of the same of what we're seeing in this series, big two-way wings. I don't know who needs to hear this, by the way, because it's not on the docket. It's not on the docket for today. But Jimmy Butler has been the best player in these playoffs. When we look at points added on offense, Jimmy Butler first. Points saved on defense, Jimmy Butler second to Giannis. He has been far and away, through 4 or 5 games in every series, he's been far and away the best player in these playoffs.
But what about, what about his matchup, though, compared to
hold on. Some of it is that. Some of it is Matt. But I said this last week. The Heat match up well against the Sixers because of what I talked about. They've got depth. They've got a switching five in Bam Adebayo. With a hobbled Joel or an injured Joel not being at 100% and James Harden unable, because this is a trend, unable to score efficiently, even if Philly gets by this series, they're in a lot of trouble against the Miami Heat.
Yeah, but we're talking about the now.
You said the liability is the wrong word, though. Liability is the wrong word. He's not I've been a liability on defense before. Liability is the wrong word.
No, actually, the liability is the right word because James Harden is struggling to actually get 20 points, J.J. Redick. And with Joel Embiid being injured, James Harden doesn't have the capability of taking over the game anymore offensively. I don't care about the facilitating. The assisting don't ring a bell to me right now. That don't just elevate. That's not what the James Harden that the 76ers need right now. Because of Joel Embiid being injured, that means, yes, he is a liability because he can't close or take over the game. So how is that not being a liability if you can't take over the game?
Well, I'm with JJ on this in terms of the word liability because just because you can't take over the game doesn't make you a liability. When I think liability, I think Ben Simmons. That's what I think. That's apropos. That's kind. That's entirely too kind a word liability when it comes to a Ben Simmons. And considering the franchise that he came from, which is the Philadelphia 76ers, I mean, Harden is heaven because guess what? At least he's on the court, all right? But I get where you're coming from. Here's the deal. You and J.J. Redick, especially you, JJ, are we really, really going to sit here and act like we don't suspect what's going on? James Harden has not been the same since his hamstring. Fair enough. James Harden looks like he lost a step. He ain't the same player that he was in Houston, just like KP just highlighted. Check. Obviously so. Let me give y'all these numbers. Last 9 games or so during the regular season, 5 games during the playoffs. 2 for 11, 9 of 17, 4 of 15, 4 of 10, 4 of 13, 4 of 10, 3 of 12, then a slide 7 to 16 in there, all right, for game 1 of this series. 6 of 17 since game 1. 3 of 9, 7 of 13, 5 of 17, 4 of 11. Now, is James Harden really that bad? Has he really lost that much of a step, J.J. Redick? Or is it that you wanted to get out of Houston, so you got to Brooklyn, and then when you got to Brooklyn, you really wanted to get to Philly, and so obviously you told Steve Nash one thing, you do another, you end up getting out the door, which is what you really wanted, because we know what he's willing to do, and now you in Philly, and all these rumors are circulating that if things don't work out, Doc Rivers going to be gone, and Mike D'Antoni's going to be in there. Who wants Mike D'Antoni as the coach? We all know. Daryl Morey's one of them. James Harden's another. Is that going to happen if James Harden is looking all world? Is that going to happen if Philadelphia is winning? If that's going to happen, if
Wait a second. What are you
suggesting?
James Harden, after wanting that trade, isn't playing well to get a new coach.
What I'm saying to you is this. James Harden, you could talk about he's struggling all you want to. All I'm saying is, can we ask the question, is he really this inefficient? I've never seen it. Can y'all explain to me? Can you truly explain? Can you truly explain that? So in other words, all those numbers that I threw out to you, and again, I'm not trying to sit up there saying the brother playing bad on purpose. What I'm saying to y'all is this. When you are devoid of the passion and the enthusiasm to do something, does it not affect y'all play? Y'all played. I'm asking.
Stephen A., listen, man. James Harden game is on a decline right now offensively. He's not the same James Harden of old. He can't get by people. He doesn't have the explosiveness. He doesn't have enough stuff in him to even create his sidestep three-point shot. Like at this moment of time, you need James Harden to elevate. Let me tell you the worst thing that happened for the Philadelphia 76ers. Fred VanVleet got hurt. And I'm going to say this, and I say this respectfully, because now when you look at the lineup that Nick Nurse put out there, guess what? You got 6'4", 6'6", 6'7", 6'10", 6'10". And so they're switching everything. And they athletic. So now all of a sudden when James Harden gets to go in isolation at the top of the key, he is not getting by anybody no more. And the world knows this. So, Stephen A., you going to sit up here and act like we didn't really know the truth of what was going on with Kyrie Irving and James Harden before he got traded? You didn't go to the Brooklyn Nets game and saw Kyrie Irving pick up James Harden full court because he know that James Harden is losing it. He don't have it no more. Man, listen, if y'all go sit up here and defend James Harden and say that he's not a liability right now for the 76ers, I feel sorry for y'all loss.
Perk, I just want to say one thing about Fred VanVleet. I'm not going to let you slander his defense.
I did not slander his name. I said respectfully. I said not because of what he
you
brings up.
insinuated that he's not even a good defensive player. He's actually a great defensive player. He's a great defensive. I realize he doesn't have the size, but he has been a great defensive player over the last few seasons. On the Harden front, Stephen A., I strongly disagree with your notion here because James Harden is motivated. The idea that he's not fully invested or something and doesn't want to play well because he's not passionate. He's got a lot of money on the line. He's well aware of the discourse around his playoff history and the fact that he hasn't won a championship. Maybe, as Perk said, maybe it's okay just to admit that he's got a lot of miles on his body. He had a serious hamstring injury. He hasn't fully recovered. He hasn't been himself physically, and he's not the same player. It doesn't have to do with any underlying
Or maybe he's
motivation.
just a great regular
Hold on.
season player, like a Peyton Manning.
See, this is the crazy part. This is when I have to go into my bag, and I hate it. You know who I was on the phone with last night? I was on the phone with Sam Cassell, okay? And if you don't know who Sam Cassell is, he's sitting about 3 seats down from Doc Rivers. He's an assistant coach for the Philadelphia 76ers. He's a 3-time world champion, all that above. Sam, I am. Sam Cassell told me, and it's the reason that I sat up here and tried to come on here and tell y'all that he told me the worst thing that could have happened for them was the size and the length, and no disrespect to Fred VanVleet, but James Harden struggles with the size and the length of those guys on the perimeter. And so what I'm saying is, listen, JJ, here's the thing. All I'm telling you is...
I'm telling you that Sam is wrong because this isn't a one-game thing that James Harden all of a sudden shot 4 for 11 last night because Fred VanVleet wasn't in the game. This is weeks of this, Perk. Come on. Sam doesn't know what he's talking about. I love Sam, but that's wrong. That's wrong.
Sam don't know what he's talking about.
Hold on.
I love Sam.
He's wrong on that. Sam got 3 championships, JJ. Sam don't know what he's talking about.
No. Well, he was just talking about that one point, Kendrick Perkins. That's all. Just like people will sit up there and grab one point you make and try to generalize it. All right. JJ Redick disagrees with that one point. That's all he was saying.
Yes, correct.
That's all he was saying. The point that I'm trying to make to y'all is this: James Harden was so electrifying as an offensive player that he could have slippage and not look as pedestrian as he's looked over the last few weeks. Are we not going to ask why? Yeah, I'm sitting here. I'm the only person that's sitting there. I mean, we all notice what the drop-off has been like. We know that it was existing before this Toronto series, before Fred VanVleet went down, before he had 6'10" cat switching on him, before all of that. We were watching. We were here on First Take, Kendrick. We were here on First Take, JJ, talking about the slippage. We also talked about the aspirations that the reports that go throughout the NBA community of Daryl Morey wanting Mike D'Antoni and James Harden wanting Mike D'Antoni. Now we hear Joel Embiid at a press conference talking about how, well, I don't know that area, but you got to let James play his game and all of that other. Where that coming from? We going to sit up here and act like, you know what, Stephen A. is just in the clouds. I'm just in the clouds here. We watching the guy play. We know what he's capable of, even with slippage. We know what he's capable of. Even with the hamstring injury, even with going to Brooklyn, the brother turned into a triple-double and was an MVP candidate last year. Even with his game changing and him not being what he was in Houston, we didn't see this. So, Kendrick, I'm not disagreeing with you. And, JJ, I'm not disagreeing with you. I'm just saying there's a different component. And mark my words, because we see, this is the beauty of the position that I'm in. We hear all of these reactions, and then weeks or months down the road, it's like, damn. It damn sure looks that way now. Damn. It makes sense. I'm not trying to sit up there and say he's lackadaisical or anything like that. I'm saying the slippage has been so dramatic. Yep. It's not James Harden like.
But when has he been great in the playoffs? That was the indictment going in. So Molly, hold on, let me say one thing.
But I brought it up before what is happening before the playoffs.
But that is insinuating that he wants to lose to get a new coach.
No, it's not about.
Joel Embiid didn't have a great game last night either.
It's not about losing. It's about a coach putting you in positions that you may not necessarily agree with. So you're going to go out there and give your best. But when things don't work out, you in the locker room afterwards talking about, I should be in a better position. Why would you? JJ Redick, you're a former teammate of Joel Embiid. Tell me one time. Kendrick Perkins, tell me one time y'all have heard Joel Embiid go into a post-game. He didn't even do that when it was Brett Brown. Am I lying?
He didn't do that with who?
Brett Brown. He didn't even do that with Brett Brown. I'm talking about in the press conference.
You mean him
There was
addressing
multiple
Harden?
times he did it with Brett Brown, and I talked to Joel about this. The Christmas Day game in 2018.
Okay.
He talked about Brett Brown in the press conference and how he didn't like the offense we were running.
No, that's not what I mean. I'm talking about when you're talking on behalf of another player.
Yeah, but
Stephen
A, now you're taking it out of context because he said the question was asked to him, why is James Harden not being aggressive? And he said, I've told him that a few times the coach need to tell him to be more aggressive, I guess. That's all he's saying. And listen, when you talk about, here's the thing, let me correct you on something. When you talk about putting a guy in position to be successful, tell me, what the hell do you want Doc Rivers to do?
No, I don't have a problem with what Doc Rivers is doing.
Okay, but what I'm saying is, the same. What system can you possibly run? James Harden has the ball in his hands. James Harden is initiating the offense. James Harden has.
I agree.
Okay, so it's not like Doc Rivers sitting up and running sets.
No, I'm bringing it up because of what Joel Embiid said. I'm saying to you, and not only that, the report, Kendrick Perkins, we talked about this. We like, where the hell are these reports coming from? Keep in mind, well, let me remind y'all, I worked in Philly for 17 years. These people, and it's not an accident. That these headlines are coming.
Stephen A, you're coming back. We're up against it. Let me get into a quick commercial break here. We can come back to everything. Don't worry. That was a lot there. When we come back here on First Take, Jamie